Thank you so much for joining today. Welcome to our National Apprenticeship Week webinar, Closing Talent Gaps with Apprenticeships. Today, we are hearing from leaders in emerging industries. A few housekeeping items before we start. Today's webinar is brought to you by a $7.9 million grant through the Department of Labor Apprenticeship Building America grant. We are very honored to bring forth this talented panel and to celebrate National Apprenticeship Week. In today's webinar, we will review, we'll we'll introduce our speakers, our panelists. We will go through briefly on what apprenticeships are, why should a company, why should people start apprenticeship programs. We will hear from our panel, and if we have time, we will have a brief Q&A. So first, I would love to introduce our speakers. We do have a slight change. Ms. Abigail Allen of the Department of Labor has fallen ill, so she unfortunately is unable to moderate today. We have Mr. Phil Minardi joining us from BuildWithin, who will step in as the moderator. I will let Phil introduce himself in just a moment. At first, I would like to introduce our panelists. We have Mr. Ajani Amiri, Program Executive of Venice Arts. Ajani is a storyteller and director of the Center for Creative Workforce Equity at Venice Arts. Since graduating from Howard University during the pandemic, he set up a television series at the Walt Disney Company. During this time, he helped develop the first federally registered apprenticeship program, along with Wendy Levy, to increase opportunities in the media arts and creative technologies space. He then transitioned to lead the Center for Creative Workforce Equity at Venice Arts, where he has developed partnerships with companies in the creative sector to develop pathways for employment, particularly for low-income opportunity youth. Thank you, Ajani, and welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Next, we have Ajani's apprentice, Julie Fan. She is the Community Outreach Apprentice for Venice Arts. As a first-generation college student and the eldest daughter of Vietnamese refugees, she understands the pressure of balancing expectations and dreams. She has worked in sociology research, education, and nonprofit organizing before delving full-time into the entertainment industry. She has worked as an assistant in television, primarily in the development and production. Some of her credentials include Good Trouble on Hulu and Netflix is a Joke. Utilizing her background in sociology, much of her work revolves around inclusive storytelling and substantially diverse visibility. She currently works at Venice Arts Center for Creative Workforce Equity as a program coordinator. Thank you, Julie, and welcome.
Thanks for having me.
Next, we have Joyce Sloss, Managing Partner of SCA Strategic Partnerships International. Joyce is SCA Partnerships International. Ooh, that's a mouthful. Is a public-private strategic consulting firm that works with government agencies to stimulate economic development and create local jobs, and with corporations to win public contracts. The company's industry expertise includes airports, construction, concessions, transportation authorities, and municipalities, with services primarily focused on consulting, business inclusion, business development, workforce development, and programs for youth. Joyce has more than 26 years of government and airport experience with the City of Los Angeles. As the director of the Business and Job Resource Center for Los Angeles World Airports, LAWA, or LAWA, she ran the division as a central one-stop resource and clearinghouse for LAWA contracts, employment opportunities, and student on-the-job training and work experience. she focused on developing and implementing policies and innovative new programs that connect emerging businesses with contracts and community residents with jobs. Prior to working at LAWA, Joyce worked at the Office of the City Administrative Officer, LA City's budget office. During her time there, she developed the framework for the creation of the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment, handled the development of the $213.9 million Central Library renovation and expansion project, and served as the liaison to the Los Angeles Community Development Bank, the mayor's office, and was a member of the Public Participation Task Force on Economic Development Consolidation. Ms. Sloss's guiding principle is to work collaboratively with all to establish winning solutions to difficult and sometimes seemingly intractable issues. Thank you, Joyce, for joining us today.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
And we are joined by Joyce's apprentice, Courtney Corin, Office Operations Apprentice at SCA Strategic Partnerships. Courtney serves as the Executive Assistant and Apprentice at SCA Strategic Partnerships International, a role she began in February of 2024. She is also pursuing a master's law degree or pursuing a law degree at USC's Gould School of Law. Previously, Courtney served as the Director of Track and Field Recruiting at USC, where she initially joined the USC athletics staff in 2020 as a volunteer student assistant coach, before being promoted to recruiting coordinator in 2021. In this position, she oversaw the recruiting database and organized team activities and visits. Courtney's connection to USC extends to her time as a dual sport athlete, competing in track and field from 2017 to 2019 and in soccer in 2016. As a freshman, she was a part of the NCAA champion women's soccer team. In track and field, she captured the 2018 Pac-12 long jump title with a leap of 21 feet and 4 inches and holds the 5th spot on USC's all-time long jump list. Courtney graduated from USC in 2021 with a BA in Law, History, and Culture, earning distinction as a 4-time Marks scholar. She began her USC journey in the fall of 2016, balancing both sports before choosing to concentrate fully on her academics. Thank you for joining us, Courtney.
Thank you for having me.
And Phil, my colleague, I would love for you to take a moment to introduce yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jen. And good afternoon, everyone. As Jen mentioned, my name is Phil Minardi with BuildWithin. And if you haven't had the opportunity to be introduced to us in the past, BuildWithin is a technology company that uses 20 years of experience in education, in technology, and policy to build technology solutions that help companies, help governments, help organizations start, manage, and scale their on-the-job training programs, apprenticeship programs. And I'm going to take a little point of privilege here and say I've had the opportunity to work with all of our panelists today. Joyce, Julie, Johnny, Courtney, and I'm just excited for this conversation where we're going to get to unpack a lot of their experience and hopefully share with the 70 so folks that have joined us today and give you some of the insights and actionable things you could do to get your apprenticeship program started. But it's good to see everybody. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Phil. And before we go into our panel, we wanted to take a moment to provide an overview of an apprenticeship program. So apprenticeships are regulated on-the-job training programs. They provide cost-effective talent development. Apprentices learn while they earn. So oftentimes they're able to be paid slightly under the market rate because they are learning on the job. Apprenticeship programs provide hands-on training that's practical and is aligned with industry standards. Through an apprenticeship program, apprentices are able to earn industry-recognized credentials and certifications. Apprenticeship programs enable businesses to cultivate a workforce that is precisely trained to meet their specific needs. And so why create an apprenticeship program? Apprentices who complete their program are more likely to convert to full-time and stay on with their company after receiving a full-time offer. 95% of apprentices are still with their company after 5 years of employment, which is a phenomenal retention rate. Apprenticeship programs are fiscally wise. Not only can you start at a lower than market rate for a starting wage, uh, starting an apprenticeship program can provide the opportunity for your organization to access financial incentives that can help offset some of the hiring costs, wages, services that your apprentice may tap into. Apprenticeship programs allow your company to access a larger talent pool that are more skill-based. So it's people who are veterans, who are career changers, maybe who are immigrants trying to find their first position in the U.S. By the nature of apprenticeship programs, your talent pool just increases and becomes wider. So, an apprenticeship program, we'll hear about some today. There are a wide variety of roles that you can start your apprenticeship program in. Many are tech or what we call tech adjacent. So, today we'll hear from office operations and program coordinator. You can create or run an apprenticeship program for software developer, game developer, cybersecurity, digital marketing, customer success, business development representative. There are a wide range of positions where you can start an apprenticeship program. And so with that, we're going to move into our panel. So I will now pass it on to Phil.
Thank you, Jen, and welcome everyone once again. And just a point of clarification here. So now the chat is open. If you have questions, if you have thoughts, ideas, toss them in the chat. But I want to kick off the discussion today, just pulling on a little bit of a thread that Jen mentioned, which is the power of apprenticeships. And I want to start by grounding ourselves in a couple of facts. The reality is an apprenticeship is a full-time job. So the apprenticeship model is really based around the idea that you're bringing somebody new into the organization that may not have as much experience as another candidate, but has the passion, has the desire, has some of the aptitudes to be successful, and you get to build them and mold them in a way that works best for your company. So it's a full-time job just like anybody else, but because of the structured nature of the apprenticeship program, it really gives the candidate, gives the team the opportunity to grow, to accelerate, and to develop in a way that provides an immense amount of benefits, like Jen said, to both the individual and to the organization. So we're going to start there today with our first question, which is going to go to Joyce and to Ajani, which is talking about motivation. So maybe Joyce, I'm going to kick it over to you first. Can you talk a little bit about your motivation with SEA raising their hand and saying yes to an apprenticeship? What was the motivation about entering into that model?
Thank you, Philip. I appreciate that. We were interested in it because I did have a need. I needed new staff, and I was looking for someone who had some background in training. But when we learned about the apprenticeship program and learned that they would also have on-the-job training and be able to access other supports to help them in this job, I was very interested and wanted to learn more about it. And then I had the great opportunity of having Courtney as our first apprentice, who is absolutely amazing. And it's a really wonderful experience. And also, as Joanne said, that we did have a little supplement to help us with the from grants or to help us with that as well. And that was also very helpful for us. We are a small business, and so any additional assistance that we can get financially is wonderful. But overall, we were very, very pleased with the program, and it was very helpful to us.
Great, wonderful. Ajani, what about yourself? Tell us a little bit about your motivation for saying yes to the apprenticeship model.
Sure. I mean, we've been well, I've been here at Venice for a while now, and I've seen a good amount of folks come in into Julie's position. And I think, at the time when we were searching for someone to fill that role, we were at a very critical moment in the pre-apprenticeship um, kind of trajectory, because we have a contract with the Department of Economic Opportunity where we have an 8-week pre-apprenticeship program to get people into entry-level positions in the entertainment industry. And we had about a month to get about 50 new applications, and it was kind of like right at the line of and everything was kind of moving really fast. And you know I thought, bringing on somebody into this position in such like a critical moment would be pretty stressful on everyone, including myself. So I think, a little selfishly, when I was talking to you, Philip, about what an apprenticeship could do for us, I think I was allured by the idea that we could bring somebody on and kind of give them the tools to succeed on a high level, while giving that on the job training so they could then work, learn, and execute. And Julie did that with like flying colors. We exceeded our expectations with the DEO, and continue to do so because of her, I would say. So I'm glad that I could, you know, be a part of the BuildWithin community, because it's been a huge help for me.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Ajani. So I'm going to pull on a couple of themes that I heard, Joyce, from you and Ajani for a quick follow-up question, which is the conversation today is really rooted in the idea that we're giving other employers some actionable steps that they could take to get their programs going. And if I heard right from you, Joyce and Ajani, two of the main components that kind of pushed you over the edge was the idea that you had a talent need, that you had open roles that needed to be filled, and that you saw there was an opportunity to leverage some of the dollars, whether it was offered by the state or through the federal government, to hire quality talent. Can you maybe give one or two first steps or actions that you took at the beginning of your program that set you up for success in those two regards?
Well, for me, actually, the Build Within program, it made it very, very easy. There's a simple, like, one-page application. I discussed with Michelle. Michelle is the one that I spoke with at the time. I spoke with Michelle, and she told me about the different positions that were available. As I looked through them, I saw the one that would work best for us. We filled out the one-page application, submitted it, worked together with someone from your team. It was really quite easy and quite seamless for us to get started, which was also very much a benefit because I knew I needed someone. And the thought of going through a lot of applications was going to be a lot. But with your team, they sorted through and really pre-identified some applicants that would fit what we were looking for, and then we could choose from there. So it was really a very seamless and very helpful process.
Yeah, and I would agree. I think when I feel like things like this seem daunting from the outside. You don't know exactly, how much paperwork it's going to take and how long it's going to take. But working with BuildWithin was, seamless, like Joyce said. A quick application, a pretty short video chat with a Philip and another team member, China, who was great. And the BuildWithin platform also was very user friendly, so it was kind of easy to understand, especially with the AI components that you brought in. And I think you know when I look through, what would be the best fit for Julie's role, community outreach specialist, just stood out to me. And so that was a quick decision as well. And so we kind of just got right down to business. And you guys were also very open to us as well when we had questions, or if we thought maybe this training video was good, but there were others that we thought lean more into what we were looking for this particular role. So, it was, you guys could mold it to what we needed at the time. So that was really helpful too.
I love that, Johnny, and I think that speaks to maybe a misconception that's out there around the apprenticeship model, which is that it's difficult or it's hard or it takes a lot of time. And I think what I'm hearing from both of you is that in fact, it's the exact opposite. It's easy to get a program started. It's an opportunity to access dollars to help support your continued growth from a workforce perspective. And it's an opportunity to get some quality talent in Julie and in Courtney that maybe you wouldn't have had access to before. So I love that. Maybe Julie, Courtney, bringing you into the discussion here. Both of you are, in reading through your resumes, immensely accomplished and incredibly hungry young individuals as it relates to your careers. Can you maybe talk, now that you've been through your program for a little bit of time, about some of the skills that you've developed through your apprenticeship program that maybe are different or stand alone as compared to something you may get from a traditional education pathway?
Courtney, did you want to go first?
Sure. So as for me, I love how you kind of point to the fact that we are like high achieving individuals, but then you enter the workforce and that doesn't always translate. So I think what apprenticeship offers is it's very applicable. It's the real world hands-on training that you need for that specific job. And in school, I mean, we love school, but they teach you a lot of theory-based, I would say, modules. And then you go into the workforce, let's say via an internship, which is different than an apprenticeship. And you may not be doing exactly what you thought you'd be doing. The school work that you've learned wasn't very applicable to exactly your job description. Whereas with an apprenticeship, the training that you are getting and learning at home is exactly relevant to what you need for your job. So you are then going to prosper tremendously in a shorter amount of time than you are going to be when you're coming out of maybe just getting a BA, right? Versus getting an apprenticeship specifically and as an executive assistant. Think of it more as like a trade. So I feel like it is a win-win situation where it's essentially giving you access to what you need at the same time without the debt that you gained from school, and you get to earn. So I mean, I still feel like I would go this route no matter what, even if I'm pairing it with, you would say, formal education.
I absolutely agree with everything that Courtney said. For me, it was like how easily curatable the training was, and then like the direct application of it afterwards. Like you said, Courtney, the hands-on training is just like unbeatable. The thing that I like gained so much from this, like that's separate from like a traditional education, is the actual practice of communication skills. Like I think for me, I was the communications outreach. And I think so often we go through, like you said, Courtney, the theories of how do we speak to people? For me, I work with a lot of marginalized communities, and my whole thing in entertainment is about, you know, diversifying the storytelling field, development, entertainment, media visibility, and not just putting faces on screen, but how do you really genuinely support the people who are telling these stories? And that's a lot of the work that I'm doing now. And there, you fall into a lot of challenging situations or complex situations. Everything is kind of like on a one-on-one basis. And not everyone has the answers, but this training, because it was so curated, I got so many different perspectives. The training was also very honest, which I really love. A lot of the soft skills I was learning, um, was very honest. And, there was even like a training on like how to deal with imposter syndrome, which is like not something you would ever really learn in school. You don't really have the space to have that one-on-one conversation. And, after I did that training module, I actually went and talked to a Johnny, and I was like, this is something we need to be discussing with our students. This is something we need to be talking with the students we're working with in the pre-apprenticeship, because we're working with young BIPOC marginalized communities entering a field that is, predominantly white male dominated, still is. So, we need to talk about the emotional aspects of pushing our students forward. And so I feel like the training modules also did that for me as well. which is something you would never really get in a traditional lecture hall, unless you have like a curated one-on-one relationship with a professor.
I love that. Thank you, Julie. And maybe just to follow up on that, both Courtney and Julie elucidated something in me, which is quite often a concern we hear from employers, which is you have somebody maybe that isn't as qualified or as ready for the role as hiring somebody through traditional methods. Maybe Johnny, Joyce, if you have any thoughts, can you tell us a little bit about your experience with the apprenticeship model versus the traditional hiring model, as opposed to having somebody at that stage of their career, at that stage of their journey, and the impact they had on the organization?
Well, one of the things that I appreciated about this program is that you do have those supplemental courses that they can take, there are so many. No matter how well trained somebody is or how much experience they have, there are always gaps. There are always areas that they're not trained for. And excuse me. And so we had Canva courses, PowerPoint. I needed to make sure that she could do some, Courtney could handle some of our financial things. And so she was taking finance courses and Excel courses. And so just a number of areas, just so many different areas that were helpful to us, because the work that we do in terms of working with the communities for jobs, for business opportunities, and also with youth to help them understand about potential career opportunities. There are a lot of different areas that we cover. It's a very versatile and kind of free-flowing kind of work that we do. And so it was really great to have that as a supplement, and really give Courtney additional skills that continues to be helpful to our business and the work that we do.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Johnny?
Yeah, and I would definitely concur. I think in the past, I have actually hired people into this role who have been program coordinators, who have been community outreach specialists before. And I think they were great. I think a lot of them were able to just kind of hit the ground running. But I think bringing on someone who hadn't been in that role before and is now just kind of learning on the fly, I saw it was a lot more surprising, right? And the things that I got out of it was more surprising as well. Especially coming from like writers' rooms and like the entertainment industry, like how I, do as well. I think Julie was able to come at things from a more unique angle and be more creative, I think, in the way that we were able to like solve certain problems that came up while we were doing the outreach. And she's a very organized individual, and you have to be when you're coming from writers' rooms. So, she was able to completely kind of change the way that we even work here at Venice Arts, from like a data level, where the way that we organize our data is now completely different across the entire organization, because Julie's been here for, I don't know, it's been like 2 months, right? So like if we brought someone in who has just worked in nonprofits in this particular role and knows how it's usually done, then it would have continued to move and it would have been fine, but I feel like bringing someone from the outside has been able to kind of shake us up a little bit. And we have all these new ways that we're connecting with our alumni, the way that we're organizing data to then speak back to our grantors, and even the way that we work as a unit between our teaching artists, our TAs, and myself as the director and our executive director. I think our communication has improved immensely. I think maybe Julie might have come in with a lot of that, but also those modules and the training that she was able to get through BuildWithin, I'm sure sparked something else that, gave these ideas to her, that might have sparked something, that ended up allowing us to have such a great experience. So definitely grateful for the opportunity.
I love it. So by opening your door literally and metaphorically to a new perspective, it had an immensely positive impact on, it sounds like not just your organization, but also from a culture perspective, right? Bringing a new perspective, bringing a new dynamic that may not be accessible through other ways of hiring. I'm going to maybe pull a thread a little bit on that because I know I was looking at some of the folks we have in the chat with us today, I know some of them are not coming from the entertainment business, and maybe aren't coming from the smart city consulting business like Joyce and SCA, and asking themselves the question of how can I create a program that works for my industry or works for my segment. So maybe Johnny, Joyce, this is a question for the two of you. How did you customize your program, your apprenticeship program, to really fit the needs of the entertainment industry, or Joyce, the work that you're doing from a federal perspective or from an airport's perspective? Maybe talk about how you customize it to fit the needs of your organization. Joyce, I need to get a T-shirt that says you're on mute.
Sorry about that. Quite honestly, the program is flexible. So as I discussed with Michelle, kind of this is what I'm thinking about. These are kind of the needs that I have. And you know, because we're looking for someone with a lot of different skill sets and who's very flexible, who can also talk to the public, who can, you know, just a lot of different things. And so as we talked about it more, we were able to hone in on the specific job position or the position description that worked best, that would work best for us. So part of it is just being quite honest about what it is that you're looking for. Discuss that, and then based on that, you know, whoever's working with you will help you figure out which position is going to work best for you. And then within that, you'll be able to find the person that's going to work best for you in that situation. And as Johnny said, you're going to get so much more than you anticipated. Yes, I had some ideas in mind, but then with the skill set that Courtney herself brought to the table, it really expands on everything that we were possibly thinking about, and we've gotten so much more than I had hoped. So it definitely has worked well for us.
Yeah, you know, I think the thing about you know, working in the entertainment industry is that, you know, there are a lot of partners that are, you know, have those social responsibility arms that are trying to, you know, do good, right? So, you know, in our pre-apprenticeship program that we already have, you know, that we run this nonprofit, it's already taking a lot of thoughts in from foundations, from certain companies, and you know, we're preparing our students for kind of going out into the workforce and, you know, filling the gap for certain roles that could, you know, potentially benefit our corporate partners. So you know, we take a lot of their feedback into our curriculum. So we were able to kind of use a lot of the feedback that we're already getting from our pre-apprenticeship into our apprenticeship. So, you know, a lot of what we have to do here in Julie's role is finding people that can be ready to work, you know, and because this is a whole job placement program for like PBS is one of our partners, NBC is a major partner, Sony. So, you know, we were able to use a lot of them to then help us better kind of tailor and customize Julie's role, and being able to basically be a recruiter, right? And like, you know, but instead of working for NBC directly, we're working for me, right? So like it's been great to kind of also connect with other nonprofits and organizations that are doing the work that we're doing, all of this recruitment work, and to ask them for feedback as well. So it's kind of been an idea generator that's helped me kind of make the decisions to better customize this role.
Love it. Thank you, Johnny. So I'm going to pull maybe another thread here, which is something both Joyce, Johnny, Julie, Courtney, you've mentioned, but for everybody's edification, there's really kind of three components of an apprenticeship program. that make them special. The first is obviously the on-the-job training, which is the day-to-day tasks that Julie and Courtney are doing to build their experience in that profession or that field. The related technical instruction, and Johnny and Joyce mentioned modules, which is the coursework or the more formalized education that they're doing that aligns with the tasks that they're doing on a day in and day out basis. And then combining the on the job kind of application as well as the coursework, they're building up competencies or they're building up demonstratable skills that will, and as we've seen with Julie and Courtney, have made them very proficient and additive members of the team. Maybe a question for you, Joyce, and Johnny, to follow up here. Can you tell us a little bit how you approached tasks and approached coursework and made sure that both of those two things aligned with the needs of the company?
For us at SCA, we the way we approached it is we just looked at all the things that we do. And because, as I said, we do community outreach. We're working with students. We do a variety of things in terms of engaging with the community. We're also talking with employers. We're talking with construction companies and architectural firms. We work across a diverse group of businesses. And so we needed someone who would be comfortable in all of those situations and be able to come up with ideas and programs. And so as we thought about the kind of work that we do, we looked at, okay, what kind of skill sets would be needed and what would help us across all those skill sets. And so kind of taking all of that together, and not just what we were currently doing, but what we were thinking about for the future, which for us included AI, which is, a lot of PowerPoint presentations when we're going out to community events and we're showing just a short presentation as well as our conversations, organizing the events and what goes into organization of these events. And so again, it was thinking about what we are currently doing, but also what our future needs would be, and then having that conversation to look at what those modules could be. And then as we got into it, there were other things that came up. And that was the great part, that we weren't limited by what you thought about initially, that you could continue following on to other modules as it became apparent that this would be an area that would be needed for the work that you're doing. So I enjoy the flexibility that we have with it, that we were able to continue to expand and grow the work that we were doing, so that it could meet the needs that we have at the time and also going into the future.
Yeah, I agree on all fronts. I think when we were kind of designing it initially, it was kind of just, taking the job description that we've had in the past and just, saying boom, 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 this is what the job is, and what best, connects into the BuildWithin platform. But as we were, as things came up, like Joyce said, or if Julie came in the room and said, this one particular module sparked something else that I think would be a great addition to what this role is, how can we, find another, training video that can, be in addition to the community outreach specialists, BuildWithin training program. So then we just kind of kept, brainstorming as we went. And, thinking forward, thinking future wise is important. And also just kind of looking back on, how this role has worked in the past and maybe how it didn't work as well in the past, right? So how do we update that job description and try to find modules and, and kind of adapt the apprenticeship program in a way that can kind of fix a lot of the places in our prior hiring practices and the way that we would train folks before that weren't working as well. So we kind of, I guess, redesigned what the role was with our apprentice and the apprenticeship model was, key to that.
Love that. So it sounds like not only did the kind of thought process of the apprenticeship program itself change, but just the idea of who you're bringing into the organization and why and how has changed over time as well, which is great to hear. I'm going to bring Julie and Courtney back into the conversation here. We heard quite a bit about the impact that the two of you had on your organizations. I'd love maybe to ask both of you the question of, and this is kind of interesting because Julie, you're 2 months in. Courtney, you're about to graduate. You've been in your program a while. How has your apprentice, for the folks on the call today that are thinking about an apprenticeship, how has your program changed the way you thought about your career and where you go post graduation?
So I guess I'll jump in. I feel like when I started, similar to where Julie was, I was not sure where I was going because I coupled it with school and formal education. But now, definitely staying with my company. Love Joyce and everything I've learned. I think just kind of how Julie pointed out, like you have that imposter syndrome, no matter where you're coming from. It's like, am I capable of doing this? Will I have the necessary skills? Like, can I keep up? And I think going through the apprenticeship program and having everything be so accessible and so easy, I think allows you to build up that confidence that I think you need in any realm that you enter into, especially for, diverse people like myself, women, minorities, etc. So for me, it was super important. And it also, like we talked about, loyalty to that company that invested in you and essentially made you the person that you are today. And I just feel like you want to not only give back, but it's like you've grown muscles within that company and all they want you to do is to like do well, but you now want to do well with that company versus it's like you can always venture out. I think that all depends on, that person and that individual and where you want to go with your career. But it's like that mentor mentee mentality. Like you will always remember the person that mentored you and enabled you to be whoever you want it to be. And I feel like that's what the workforce was supposed to do, right? I understand we're like a capitalist society, but at the end of the day, you want a company that is loyal to you, that is like a family that wants you to succeed. And I feel like that's what apprenticeships bring back into the workforce. It's like that community aspect. And then I think just pointing back to like bridging the gap. Yeah, like we're bridging the gap in terms of skill, but also diversity and inclusion. And we always talk about providing these opportunities in different pathways. And I feel like apprenticeship is literally doing that because by employers like Joyce, and I don't want to butcher your name, Johnny, essentially what you're looking at is by recruiting talent in a different way, you're in turn creating diversity and inclusion, whether that's for people of different races, of different ages, of different educational backgrounds. So I think that's what's so important, what I've learned.
Mentorship is key. I love that. Julie, what about yourself?
I absolutely agree with everything Courtney said. I just want to start off. This Zoom is recorded, so everything that my mentor has said, all the compliments you've given me, it is recorded, and I will be saving that. No, I absolutely agree. I think apprenticeship offers that closeness, that one-on-one mentorship that it's so difficult to get as like you're starting off in an entry-level position, and as many people have mentioned, like Courtney and I have come in with like these great resumes, but it's just so hard breaking in. For me, this apprenticeship has kind of served as like a pivoting point for me, a second career opportunity. With the entertainment strike, I became really lost, and I have a background in sociology. I started off in documentaries. I've always been really big about giving back to the community. I came up in programs like this, like Breakthrough, A Better Chance. And so this has always been such a huge, kind of like moral thing for me. I've always wanted to give back to the community and not sure how I could do that. I always thought that storytelling was my only way to do that by kind of like breaking the ground and making my stance in the entertainment industry. But this has really given me a different perspective on how I can still continue doing that, how I can still continue using my creativity, and the biggest thing that this apprenticeship has really offered me, I don't want to be too repetitive with everything that Courtney has said, but um, it's really given me the confidence through one-on-one mentorship. I get so much validation from Ajani through these follow-up conversations that we have, all of the one-on-one conversations we have after the training modules, or something will come up in a conversation that we're having about the students that we're talking about. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I totally understand where they're coming from. And, the relationship that we have, this working relationship, this professionality of how, there's one part of like you're building me up, you're providing me the professional skills. I'm able to shadow you as you're going through applications or you're breaking down proposals, and I'm learning how a nonprofit program works in the background. There's also the aspect of just like being able to have someone to constantly check in with you. And some days it's literally just I just need a good job that I wrote this email well. And I feel like apprenticeships really offer that, especially for folks like us who are marginalized, who don't often have the reassurance, the support that we need. And we're often expected to kind of just be great at what we do already, or just be strong enough to push through and just keep breaking through. So for me, the apprenticeship has also served as kind of a relief, the support that everyone deserves when they're breaking into any new industry.
Thank you, Julie. Courtney and Julie, thank you for sharing your experience and for being open about it. Johnny, Joyce, that brings to mind both what Julie and Courtney mentioned, which is mentorship and guidance. And I think one of the powerful components of an apprenticeship program is it gives the employer the opportunity to truly shape that individual. And maybe the double-edged sword there is, some employers may be concerned about the amount of time and effort it may take to build up an employee that's going through an apprenticeship program. Can you maybe talk a little bit, Johnny and Joyce, about some best practices or tips you would have to provide that mentorship and guidance in a way that is constructive and beneficial?
Mhm.
Well, for us at SCA, we're a small team anyway. And so we work very closely together. And I meet with Courtney. We work to meet at least once a week, but we talk regularly because it's different, especially when we have some very hot deadlines that require, speaking to each other all the time in order to make sure that we accomplish those deadlines. And so I think that if you have a larger organization where there's perhaps several levels, then as long as there's one person who is assigned to work with the apprentice, that's going to be really important. It's going to be important that the apprentice not get lost in the mix, that someone is talking to them on a regular basis and really making them part of this part of your environment. And for me, that's always been very important, even at other teams that I've been on. It's always been important that our team understand everything that's going on, that they understand how it all works, and that if there are any questions, that we're available to talk with them. So this is something that I just believe in anyway. And I just think as far as an apprenticeship is concerned, as long as it doesn't have to be the person who's the head, it's as long as there's someone within your organization who is assigned, dedicated, willing to work with the apprentice and make them a part of the organization and help them really understand not just the things that you have to do, but also what is the heart of the organization? How does this company really work? What are the values that this company holds, and what is important? These are the things. It's not so there's a culture to the organization that also needs to be conveyed. And that's not something that you walk in and understand. It's something that comes over time, but it also comes with someone talking to you and helping you to understand and navigate what that is, so you know how to move forward. So I would say those are some of the things that I thought about, or we have thought about this.
Yeah, I mean, I think people are probably always a little hesitant to jump into the apprenticeship field just because of all that extra time that it might take. And I know that just because of like the programs that I developed myself outside of the stars, going to employers, there's always a hesitancy of like, I already got so much on my plate, man. Like I don't want to get more stuff. And I think with BuildWithin, it's not really more stuff. I mean, I think the curriculum and the modules answer a lot of the questions, right? So, the conversations that we have are more constructive. It's not, how do I do this thing? I can't do this thing. It's more like, you know, it's more like, one-on-one, I guess like bonding within the culture of our business and trying to figure out like how I as a mentor can better help, bring my mentee along inside of the company and outside of it and just kind of better understanding them as a person. So then, our communication is just strengthened. So they're not afraid to come in and ask me, or pitch an idea or, just say anything that could potentially make what we're doing better. And it kind of brings down a lot of those walls too. And I think again, like Joyce said, our business is small. So, I'm the designated person. But there's an executive director that, Julie doesn't have that much access to, right? But I'm the point person. So, when we're doing outreach, which is every day, we usually have a designated time at the beginning of the week and at the end of the week where we have that, like, this is our meeting, and we're going to talk about everything and anything, and we're going to plan for the next week, and we're going to talk about what happened last week, and we're going to talk about what we're doing this week, right? But throughout the rest of the week, it just kind of happens naturally if questions come up, or if she, you know something in the modules made her think of something else, or something else that we're doing, away from Build Within, that it's just making her think of like, this is a better way of doing this thing. You know, uh, we have those conversations when they come up. But yeah, I think just being open, having an open door policy, and just being willing to converse with your mentee and be available, um, you know, you know, on a realistic basis, I think is the best advice that I can give.
Thank you, Johnny.
I'll just jump in and say one more thing. I love having a young mind as part of our team. Because she brings so many skill sets and things and ideas that are wonderful. And so I love hearing new ideas and looking at how we can build upon what we have. So that's a freshness that also comes with in our case our particular apprentice. So thank you. I totally agree with everything that Johnny has said, but I just wanted to add that in.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. Even though I'm kind of young as well. I think like having someone who is, fresher to this business, is great, because I've been working in nonprofits for a long time, and I think sometimes I can be a little rigid in the way that I think things can be done, or, my expectations for certain things, like, oh, this can't happen. This is how, it has to happen. And I think Julie comes in and makes me feel kind of like an old guy sometimes, with the way that I have to kind of get out of my rigid mind. So definitely grateful for that.
I love that. And I know we're coming up on time, but the enthusiasm, the kind of success you found in the model is palpable, both to Johnny and Joyce. So thank you for that. I want to do one very, very quick rapid fire, like less than a sentence, 10 seconds for everybody on the panel today. If there's an apprentice that's on the fence for jumping into an apprenticeship program, Johnny and Joyce, if there's an employer that may be on the fence, what would you say to them? Speak to them here, and what would your thoughts be for them as they make this decision?
Follow the Nike model. Just do it.
I love it.
It's easy, it's simple. There's a lot of support to help you along the way if you need it. Just do it. I think you'll find it very, very helpful.
Yeah, and anything that is making you feel like this I don't want another thing on my plate. This model takes things off your plate. This gets you through the door and it frees up your mind and just makes your business work even better than it otherwise would. So, just don't be afraid, just jump into it.
I
And
love it.
build
Julie,
with
build within. I love it. Julie.
I think an apprenticeship is great if you are a hands-on kind of person, like learning person, which I am. This is the way to go. It's just so intimate, it's curated, it's just one of like the best ways to learn for me.
I love it. And Courtney.
You have absolutely nothing to lose. Money, skill, your self-confidence, pride. So might as well do it.
I love it. Well, thank you. I know we're overtime here, but I want to extend a thank you to all of our panelists today, everybody that joined us for this conversation during the 10th annual National Apprenticeship Week. We have contact information up on the screen. If you're an employer looking to start a program, please feel free to reach out to us. We are here to support you. If you're a job seeker looking to get into an apprenticeship, please reach out to us. Our contact information is on the screen. But again, thank you all for joining us today, and in particular, thanks to the panelists and to Jen for facilitating.
Thank you so much. Everyone have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Thank you.